Well, it's been a perfect week in Lake Okee-dokee, Florida, my hometown. Down on the edge of the Everglades, the weather was sunny and in the 70s every day. Perfect for being in love. Lake Okee-dokee was abuzz as townsfolk noticed that Amy Bledsoe suddenly appeared to be wearing a beautiful engagement ring. In a town where almost everyone knows everyone else's business, this had caught them totally by surprise. Amy was the owner of the fabulously successful Lake Okee-dokee Donuts, a business she had started with the money her parents had set aside for her to go to college, and which had become kind of the unofficial hangout for Main Street merchants, folks in town to shop, and the after-school crowd. It literally could be said that, thanks to Amy, most Lake Okee-dokee residents had put on a few extra pounds over the last 4.5 years. Everyone was naturally surprised and curious as to who Mr. Wonderful might be, and if he was good enough for our Amy. Townsfolk felt protective of her. After all, they had watched her grow up in Lake Okee-dokee from infancy. They fondly recalled her first mercantile venture, a lemonade stand she had set up down on Main Street, not 100 feet from where Lake Okee-dokee Donuts now stood. And so, as they visited her shop, they constituted a continuing self-appointed screening committee, gently demanding to know, so who is he? Amy bore all this with good grace and humor, but in answer to their inquiries, she would only giggle and say, you'll see. No one could figure out how Amy had had the time to meet someone, seeing how hard she worked in growing her business, and given that she was not known to have been a social butterfly in high school. Sure, she had gone to the prom with the son of the new police chief who had moved to Lake Okee-dokee at the beginning of her senior year, but that was about it. What no one knew was that as a result of that first date, they had fallen for each other in a big way. But having only known each other a short time before he would be going off to college, neither wanted to tie the other down while they were apart. Amy was above all a realist. She believed that if it was meant to be, he'd be back. And if not, well, she elected not to think about that. But there was something there, something neither could put aside. And so when he came home on school holidays, they would see each other quietly. And by the time his senior year rolled around, they were corresponding, mostly by text, daily. Strong bonds had formed. Thus, after graduating cum laude from Notre Dame, he came back to Lake Okee-dokee, resolved to ask her to marry him. But first, there was custom to be observed. And so one evening, late last summer, Amy announced to her parents that they would be having a dinner guest. They had never seen her like this, nervous, giddy, distracted, but overall more euphoric than they could recall her being maybe ever. Soon the doorbell rang, and there stood Robert Vincent, 4 years older, 4 years more handsome, and 4 years more confident than the young man who had called on their daughter the night of their high school prom, a boxed cymbidium orchid corsage clutched in his hand. Dinner consisted of polite conversation and occasional laughter. Unaccountably, the couple seemed to know things about each other and demonstrate a level of comfort with each other that came as a total surprise to her parents. After dinner, Robert joined her father in the den while Amy and her mother loaded the dishes into the dishwasher. With only a little time before the women would join them, Robert got right to the point. Mr. Bledsoe, Amy and I are in love, and with your blessing, I'd like to ask her to marry me. I'm a cum laude graduate of Notre Dame University and currently a first-year student at the University of Florida Levin School of Law. Once I have my law degree, I plan to come back to Lake Okee-dokee and join Harlan Covington's law practice. He has already assured me a position there with the thought of continuing with him until he retires and then taking direction of the firm. I believe I can provide a good life for us. You could hear a pin drop as the two men unflinchingly looked each other in the eyes. Mr. Bledsoe's mind raced. Harlan Covington was a highly respected seventh-generation Lake Okee-dokee attorney. Practicing here in town would mean that their only child and their grandchildren would be close by. Finally, persuaded by the respect that he was being shown and pleased that they hadn't just gone out and gotten engaged, he simply said, "You have my blessing. Welcome to the family." The tension visibly drained from Robert's body, and a big smile spread across his face. "Thank you, sir," he said. "You won't regret your faith in me." It was done. The relationship had clearly caught her parents by surprise. Even though she still lived at home, they had only been loosely aware that from time to time over the past 4 years, Amy went out with friends. One of the reasons they had wanted her to go to college was so she could meet a worthy suitor, one with good prospects. In their minds, global issues such as politics, ethnicity, and even religion took a back seat to this key qualification. So, a lawyer, and a promise of a position with Harlan Covington's law firm? You couldn't get better prospects than that, they reasoned. It was a match made in heaven. The Bledsoes now saw a little more of Robert over the ensuing months, and they wondered when the engagement might become official. On Christmas Day, Robert visited, and small gifts were exchanged all around. Then the young couple took a walk. When they returned, Amy was wearing a beautiful, flawless, 1-carat solitaire diamond ring. The next day, the Bledsoes rushed down to the Lake Okee-dokee Croc with an engagement announcement. After that, the news spread quickly. Folks stopped by Lake Okee-dokee Donuts to offer congratulations and such marital success secrets as the magic of ironed bed sheets and never going to bed angry. People couldn't believe what a good match they were. All looked forward to the wedding to come, albeit a few years hence. Tammy Faye Suggins was especially taken with the news. The announcement brought back a flood of memories of her own engagement to Earl, and the more she dwelled on it, the more she was drawn to the notion that their looming 20th anniversary would be an ideal opportunity for her and Earl to renew their wedding vows. At dinner one night, she floated the idea. "Earl, I've been thinking." Many conversations had started this way over the past 20 years. Earl knew to be instantly on guard. "Wouldn't it be romantic if we celebrated our 20th anniversary by renewing our wedding vows? We could invite all our friends and family and have a big party afterwards." Earl was caught completely off balance. All he could muster was a parched, "Why?" "Because," she said, "it would be so romantic." "It would?" he croaked. "Of course," she assured him in a tone that left no doubt of her conviction or determination in the matter. But this wasn't the response she'd hoped for from him, and she instantly realized that this was going to take a lot more persuasion than she had anticipated. She pressed her point. "We could have Pastor Wilkins officiate and have a big reception at Umclod, don't you think?" The expression on Earl's face telegraphed his realization that a lot hung on his next answer. "At Umclod?" he countered. "Well, yeah, with the lady preacher." Tammy Faye instantly remembered that Earl wasn't a big fan of Umclod's interim minister, the Reverend Brandy Wilkins. She tried a new tack. "Well, where do you think we should have it?" she asked, now treating the event itself as a fait accompli. Earl bit. "I don't know, somewhere more informal maybe." And then, perceiving the trap, he added what he hoped would be a poison pill. "Our fishing camp might be okay." 20 years of negotiating had produced a compromise that neither was entirely happy with, but Tammy Faye knew that in this case, half a loaf was better than none. "Oh, thank you, Earl. It will be such fun," she gushed. And with that, the matter was settled. Within days, she had announcements ordered, the minister booked, and the party menu planned. The ceremony would take place in the Everglades on the fish camp dock, with as many guests as could be accommodated standing elsewhere on the camp's small island. The overflow crowd would sit in their boats in a loose circle around the dock. Just a few weeks before Valentine's Day, and love was running rampant. And that's the news from Lake Okee-dokee, the little town on the edge of the Everglades that time pretty much ignores, where all the women are right, all the men are happy, and all the children play outdoors.